As soon as TashaK's video brought Melody Sherry's voice to the public, there was an earthquake on social media. Melody's name was trending on Twitter, and debates erupted across platforms about how many times a woman has to scream for her own safety in order to be heard. For Martell Holt, it wasn't just a video, it was the explosive end to the false image he had built. For years, he had presented himself as a misunderstood man. But that excuse was no longer convincing. Melody's live video touched millions of hearts with her facial expressions, moist eyes, and trembling voice. People are shocked to see how a mother who works day and night for her children is repeatedly falling prey to the tricks of the same person from whom she has tried to break free. One question was buzzing everywhere on social media: when will Melody finally find peace? There was an uproar among those close to Martell. His agents, his publicity team, and even some of his old friends were calling him to make an urgent statement. But Martell, as usual, was first to joke. Some people do plays just to sell their books. He laughed at a live show. This sentence added fuel to the fire. Melody's supporters began circulating screenshots of her statements. And the very show that had been his source of income now turned into evidence against him. Carlos King, the producer of Love and Marriage, Huntsville, initially remained silent. People within the network split into two groups. Some believed that Melody's story was true and they should help her immediately, while others were just repeating the same thing. We want ratings, not controversy. But now the controversy had crossed its limits. TashaK's team hinted at releasing more videos. Melody spoke to her lawyer and filed for legal protection. This was the moment where the story turned into a real threat. Media vans are parked outside Melody's house. Children are dreading going to school. And Melody realizes for the first time that her life has turned from a reality show into a battlefield. Martell's team attempted damage control. He revealed himself to be the victim of misunderstandings in some interviews and accused Melody of stirring up old issues. But people were no longer believing in his words, but in his actions. A video emerged showing him laughing on the phone outside court, while Melody pleaded for protection inside. The video completely exposed Martell. Then came the moment when Melody broke her silence. He said in an interview, "I never wanted to defame anyone. I just want me and my children to live in peace. But if I have to speak up to save my honor, I will speak up, and this time, I won't be silent." This statement spread like wildfire on the internet. Melody went from being a victim to a symbol. Women called it their voice. Influencers, activists, and even some celebrities expressed their solidarity with her. On the other hand, every door began to close for Martell. A few of the brands it had partnered with ended their contracts. Martell's anger grew. He posted the story on Instagram one night. "I'm the one who made you. You're still living my story." But people saw the phrase as a self-confession. People said, "That's the problem, he still thinks he owns Melody." The situation had now reached a point where the pressure on the OWN network began to mount. Melody's supporters launched an online campaign against the network, Protect Black Women on Reality TV. After thousands of tweets and videos, the network released a statement for the first time saying it was taking additional steps to protect all cast members. But these words were empty for people. That same night, TashaK shared a new clip, a recording of Martell telling someone, "That woman can't ruin my honor. I'll bring her back to where she came from." This sentence was no less than a threat. There was no question of retreating for Melody now. She said, "If the price of speaking the truth is criticism, then I will pay that price. But I will not be burdened with lies." And with that, the next storm was brewing, one that would not only change Melody's life, but shake the reputation of the entire show and network. As soon as TashaK's latest clip hit social media, the network's offices were in a frenzy. The atmosphere in OWN's executive meeting room that day was as heavy as a funeral. At one corner of the table sat Carlos King. In front of him were the network reps and lawyers. And in the middle was the file that held all the records of the recent controversy. Everyone had the same fear in their eyes. Where will it all end? Carlos King had sweat on his forehead. He was an experienced producer, but this time things were getting out of hand. He took a deep breath and said, "This isn't just reality TV anymore. It's a war. If we don't step up now, the show will be over and maybe our careers." "Carlos, you should have put Melody under control. She's become a brand now, and people are starting to think of her as bigger than the show," one executive said sternly. "I tried." Carlos replied with a bow. "But you can't cover it up with editing when a woman is actually raped." Meanwhile, a notification pops up on Carlos's phone, ArionneCurry's new Instagram Live. She casually opened the video. On the screen, Arion was sitting in a room, phone in hand, a slight smile on her face. She said, "People call me a villain, but no one has thought about what it's like to be with Martell. I've been hurt too, but now I'm going to show everything." With that, he played a video, an old voice note of Martell arguing with someone and angrily calling out Melody's name, saying, "I gave her everything and she left me. Now she's crying." The entire internet exploded upon seeing this clip. Melody's fans called Arianne an irresponsible woman and had more harsh words against Martell. But there were some people who showed sympathy for Arianne for the first time. Now the story had become more complicated. It was a double problem for the OWN network. On the one hand, Melody had become a symbol of justice. On the other, Arianne's suffering had brought a new narrative, the woman the world has never heard of. Ratings skyrocketed, but the network knew the fame would one day catch fire. Carlos decides to meet up with Melody. He reached her house late at night. The door was opened by Melody's mother, a worried look on her face. Melody was sitting in the living room, a cup of coffee in front of her, and the noise of the news on the TV. "Melody, I know you're tired, but we have to save this show," Carlos said softly. "Carlos, I'm fighting for the peace of my soul, not for the show. If the show damages my dignity, I won't take a second to leave." Melody replied without looking up. Carlos nodded. "I don't blame you, but you know Martell still isn't going to leave you. He has something against you." Fear flashed in Melody's eyes for a moment. Then she said calmly, "I've faced every fear in my life. There's nothing he can do now that he hasn't done before." The next day, there was another explosion. Someone uploaded a court document to Reddit alleging that Martell had repeatedly threatened. Melody Ann had been granted a temporary restraining order by the court. The file was original. Sirens started ringing in the network's PR department. Media houses sought clarification from OWN. And a few hours later, a statement was released. "We are committed to the safety and respect of all our cast members. The network maintains a zero-tolerance policy against any form of abuse." But people now wanted faith in action, not in words. Melody's supporters said, "If the network is really being honest, take Martell off the show." This slogan started echoing all over the internet. Martell's anger was rising. "It's all a conspiracy by Melody and her media friends. She wants me ruined. But remember, I'm still a father and I'll protect my children from hypocrites like you," he said on his live one day. But now no one believed his words. He was seen as a selfish man locked in the prison of his pride, not a father. Meanwhile, Melody's friends made a short documentary, The Price of Peace, that showed Melody's life, moments with her children, and the story of her struggles. This video was only 15 minutes long, but has been viewed millions of times. People cried, women shared their stories, and Melody became a movement. Carlos felt that this moment was decisive for him. If he comes under pressure from the network, he will lose his professional reputation. Either you stand with Melody, or this show is going to be destroyed, he said as he entered the OWN office. There was silence in the room for a moment. Then the executive said, "Okay, but we need the show's ratings too. You do both save Melody's honor and keep the show alive," which is a double challenge. Carlos made Melody's storyline central in the new episodes, relegating Martell to the background. But Martell could not bear it. He sold a secret audio recording to TashaK's producer, containing Melody's private conversation. When this recording was leaked, the melody was broken. She said just one word: "Enough." That night, she quietly left the city. Didn't tell anyone where she was going. Her phone is off, her social media is deleted, and her house is empty. There was a stir in the network. Carlos tries to find her, but fails. Melody's friends said she wanted a few days of peace with her children, but the truth was that she had disappeared from the world. Meanwhile, TashaK announced on her channel, "I have the next clip, the one that will change everything." The phrase spread like wildfire across the internet. Everyone started waiting for the next video. Martell sat in his room staring at the phone screen in the dark. In his hand was the old clip which, if leaked, would end in nothing less than disaster. But there was a strange satisfaction on his face, as if he still thought he could win this battle. But he had no idea that the next blow was going to come this time from the person closest to him. The day had changed, but the atmosphere was still full of fear. The announcement of TashaK's next video had all of Huntsville holding its breath. Social media was abuzz at every moment, with one question running through everyone's mind: what's next? Martell's house, on the other hand, looked like a prison. He sat with the curtains drawn, the phone off, the lights dim, and a worried look on his face. He had the recording that he had given TashaK of himself, but he had no idea that another of his calls had been secretly recorded. A call in which he said to his friend, "Kai did it all on purpose. She thinks she won. Now look, I'm going to force her to her knees." It was only a matter of time before the call leaked. At 9 p.m., TashaK went live on YouTube. Thousands of people had joined. Her face had the confidence of someone speaking the truth. But there was a seriousness in her voice that had never been heard before. She said, "The video I am going to show today is not for everyone, but for all the women who have ever been silenced. Melody's story is not just a woman's story, but a social reality." He played the video in it. Melody stood outside the court, tears in her eyes, but courage in her voice. She was saying, "I was told to keep quiet, but I decided to speak. Because if I don't speak, my daughter will one day wonder why her mother stayed silent." Moments after the video ended, a recording of Martell's venomous tone played on the screen. His words struck a chord on social media. People shouted, "This is the real face." A storm erupted in Melody's favor in the comments. Hashtags of "We are with you" started trending. The OWN network offices were now in chaos. Executives faced media calls, legal notices, and the wrath of sponsors. Carlos called an urgent meeting. "We must make a decision. Either we stand by the truth, or we lose everything." There was silence in the room. Then came a voice: "We fire Martell from the show." As soon as this decision came out, the entire media was shocked. For Martell, on the other hand, it was all over. Sponsors canceled contracts. Friends turned away, and every day a new clip against him surfaced on social media. The silence of his house had now become a punishment for loneliness. He stood in front of the mirror, looking at his face. And perhaps for the first time, he asked himself, "Am I really who I thought I was?" But there was no one to answer. TashaK said at the end of her live, "This story wasn't just about a celebrity couple. It's a lesson that truth can't always hide in the face of power. When a woman speaks, the world changes." This sentence set everyone's heart on fire. Thousands of women commented, "We will speak up. We will not hide." Melody's life had now taken a new direction. She took a small house with her children, gained independence from the network, and vowed to protect himself. One evening, she sat with her daughter, said with a slight smile, "See? Sometimes wars we don't fight for ourselves. We fight for future generations." Her words sparked a chant on social media: "Fight loud, heal proud." These words were no longer just a hallmark of Melody. They became a movement. Martell ended up with what he feared. Most silence. His live shut down. The media turned away. And the story that was once his power became his punishment. If you have ever been silent in the face of someone's oppression, break that silence today. Like Melody, create your own voice. The price of truth is heavy, but the price of silence is much higher. Share your story, help someone, or just spread the word, because when we speak, That's when change begins.